Hi there, this is Debbie from Project 39 Mini Albums. This is the part one of the tutorial on how I made this mini album. There is a walkthrough and there are other parts to the tutorial. I will link those in the description box below if you have not gotten to see the walkthrough yet. And if you want to continue on from part one, then I'll link that. Part one is making the album cover, the hinge, and the pages. So even if you weren't going to make this mini album, part one shows you how to make the covers. So go ahead and watch this tutorial and click the link in the description box to bring you to the next one in the series. Thanks so much for watching. All right, I'm going to start by showing you the materials that I need to make a mini album. I need 2 slices of Scor-tape, a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch, art glitter glue. I use 2 different bone folders and I'll show you why as we get going. Just grab whatever bone folder. I use this as a stylus to score. Scissors, of course. Country Craft Creation sells shims that are a very good quality, so look into that. If you can get those, pick those up. The paper materials I'll use are, I need 2 sheets of 8.5 by 11 medium weight chipboard. The cardstock I'm going to use is the Artisan Cardstock available from Country Craft Creations. If you go to the website, you'll see the fabulous colors they have. And the paper pad I'm working with today is Country Bunny. I'm thinking of this as going to be more of a baby mini album, but it could be Easter as well. I also have some, they're called magnetic discs. They're magnets. These are the basic gray ones available at Country Craft Creations. I think I tore the original package, but that is what I have. So we're going to, oh, and also you'll need a paper trimmer and a scoreboard. So I am moving all of my supplies away. And flowers. I need flowers. And I use my Fisker's rotary trimmer. As you can tell, I have had it for a while. Probably should replace this, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a little old. And I use that to cut my chipboard. Now, some people change out the blades to do chipboard versus paper. With this one, I need to change out this pad more often than the blades. So I'm going to make my mini album 8.5 by 6. So I'll start by cutting down an 8.5 by 11 to 8.5 by 6. And I am going to have a 2 1/4 inch spine. So 2 1/4 by 8.5. Okay, and that is all we need for cutting the chipboard. Now I'm going to grab 2 sheets of the Artisan Cardstock. And so when you're putting this on to cover the chipboard, the way I'm doing this is I'm going to cover all 3 pieces separately. It's the way Tamara from Country Craft Creations now makes her mini album covers, and it's really a fabulous way. What I like about it is it lays flat and it's got a really nice, neat, clean look as far as the cover. So we're going to do it that way. And what you want is enough cardstock so there's an inch on each side to fold over. So since this is 8.5 by 6, I'll need it 10.5 by 8. So I'm going to cut 2 sheets of paper. I'm going to cut it down to 8. And then 10.5. And then since this is 2 1/4 by 8.5, so it should be 4¼ by 10½. Let me see what size this is. I'm going to use this. This is 4 and cut it down to 10½. So it'll be a little short, but I'm happy that I'll be able to repurpose a piece of my cardstock. Now, if you're lucky enough to have full sheets of Scor-tape, then you can use the full sheets to cover this, and you put it smack dab on here. I do not have the full sheets, so I'm just going to be taping this up. You want to cover as much as you can because you don't want this to bubble. So I'm going to go around the perimeter. And I realize I do have some thicker tape that I'll use for this. What is that? The Hinge? The word will come to me in a second. You're all screaming it at me, I know. I also need an X-Acto straight edge, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to trim this down a little, and actually I'll use this remnant, put in the center. Why not? Okay, and use your bone folder and burnish real well. So it's important to burnish. I've heard people say that you don't want any air bubbles to come up and get in between your material and the tape, because that's where over time the tape can fail. And I don't know how long we're talking about. I mean, I've put many albums together for many years and I haven't had any fail. But of course I use Scor-tape and art glitter glue. ATG is good for making cards, but it's not good for the binding part of making a mini album. Now I might take ATG and cover the inside of this. But in this case today I'm going to use art glitter glue. I put that down. The other thing about burnishing real well is it helps lift the backing of your Scor-tape. You could use your X-Acto point. I've seen people use, I don't know what you call it, a pokey tool. All right, I'm going to move that aside. I'm going to grab my Scor-board. And so this is 2 inches bigger on each side. And this is where those shims that Tamara has available in her shop would come in handy. They're 1 inch, and you put them on your Scor-board, and you use that to help lay down to center your chipboard. Now I did okay. I don't think it's perfect, but it'll be all right. I'm going to put the other, oh, I didn't put glue down, did I? So we're going to do that again. We're going to use the shims. I'm going to take this, grab my art glitter glue. Some people like to use just the art glitter glue. Some people like to use just Scor-tape. Again, the important thing is that when you're putting, when you're making your album covers, to get a lot of adhesive so that way it doesn't bubble up. All right. And there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and do, so it's not 1 inch on each side, so I'm not going to use the 1 inch shim on the side. Let me make sure this is burnished real well. And I'm just going to do my best to center this. I do not have to add glitter glue because obviously it was wall-to-wall tape. And I'm going to push down and find the edge with my bone folder. Fold it and burnish. Both ways. All right, I'm going to add my Scor-tape now that I've folded this and burnished it real well. I'm going to add Scor-tape to each of the shorter sides. I'm going to add a little art glitter glue. It's called art glitter glue, but it has no glitter. And I'm going to fill in the gap with that. And push that down. And just make sure it's got a nice crisp fold. Same with the other end. Push that up. Pull that down. Really give it a good burnish. Now I'm going to take my scissors, and if I put my scissors up against the edge here, there's a little bump, and I want to trim that down. I'll turn this over. And trim that down. So I'll do it on all four folds. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to put this aside and we'll work with I'll finish the other one in just a second, but I'll show you what we're going to do this. So push down the edge just so you can find where the edge is. This artisan cardstock is very strong paper, so you don't want to tear it, but it's pretty strong. It's got a nice feel to it. All right, and so what we're going to do is trim the 4 squares off of the corners. They're easy to see because we've creased the paper. I'm not going right to the edge, the corner of the chipboard. I'm staying maybe a 1/16 of an inch away from it. Okay, in this case, I'm not going to use the Scor-tape. I'm just going to use the glitter glue. And you saw I put it right at the edge of the chipboard. I'm going to push this up real good. You know what I forgot to do? Before I do that, I'm going to trim off this. This is where you push your scissors right up to the chipboard, and if there's a little bump, you'll cut it off. I'm going to turn it over, do the same to get all 8. And you'll see, I'm just taking off a little teeny bit. That's it. Just teeny little bits. Finish this one that I started. Use my bone folder to push it real well. And if you have an old baby wipe, you get the cheap brand and you wash them, and then they don't have any lint in them, and it helps you clean up any glue residue. What am I doing? There we go, and one more. And then I like to take my bone folder and burnish at the edge just to give it a nice, crisp, clean look. All right, and there we go. There's one, and that's just going to stay like that. Now we'll do the other one. And we use our little shims. And this has the Scor-tape on the edges. All right, think you can do this on your own? I'm sure you can. Burnish the edge there. Fold the other side in. And burnish the corners real well. If you need to put it on the table and fold it, that works too. And then we're going to cut off the corners. And then we'll fold this in and trim off. Put your scissors up against the chipboard. You can't go too far, because if you put the scissors with the blade against the chipboard, it'll stop you from cutting it too much. And then I turn it upside down to do the other side. Okay, again, just little remnants. All right, now I'm going to add the glue right along the edge of the chipboard. Rub that up real well. Pull this over. Right, push it down. Do this long side. Okay, if the glue seeps out, it doesn't hurt anything. All right, now the magic happens. Get our two covers and the spine. That's the word I was looking for. We're going to put the spine on there. Now, I don't know how other people do this, but I add Scor-tape. Usually use 1/4 inch. I grab the thicker 3/8 an inch. And then carefully take a bead of the glitter glue, and I don't go right to the fold, but stay, oh, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch away. And then we're going to put that up there so the top's against there, the side is there. We're going to take this face down and put it right next to there. So this pops up when you do that. I guess you could have folded this, do it that way. I'm going to turn this over and burnish this real well. All right, so now I'm going to take this one, turn it upside down. This time I'll grab my 1/4 inch Scor-tape, like I meant to. I just like the extra security of Scor-tape. I know Art Glitter Glue does a really good job, and actually we're going to put another piece of paper on the spine on the inside to really make sure it's secure, just to make doubly sure. Okay, and take the cover, line it up real well. Push it down. There, we'll let that dry, but I mean, you can already tell it's real secure. Well, let's see if I can use this one. I really want a bigger piece, so I'm going to grab. So that's 10.5. I'm going to cut this a little bit smaller than 10.5, just by 1/16 of an inch. And it is 5.5 inches wide. No, I'm not going to cut it that. I'm going to cut it 8.5. just a little bit shorter than 8.5. I'm going to cut it 8 7/16. And this is going to go over here, and that'll hold everything down and really make it secure. I'm going to use some Scor-tape and the problem with this is it's a little too wide, and I don't necessarily want it to go on there. I'm sure it would do fine. But just because it's just, if I did it this way. All right, so I used 2. You can just use a lot of Scor-tape or glitter glue. I just want to make sure this is really secure because the hinge is going to go on here, and I do not want anything to happen to the hinge, because really that's the whole book. All right, so this needs to be pretty close to the edge, but not over. And there we go. And then that's where I take this bone folder that has a fatter point to it, gently fold the book, and this will go into the hole, and it won't cut it. I'm afraid if I have something with too sharp of a point, I mean, I'm sure it'll be fine, but I just don't want anything to happen to it. There we go. And then there is your cover. All right, next we're going to move on to the hinge. All right, so the book is 8.5 inches tall. I want my hinge to be 8 inches tall because that's how big the pages will be. So I'm going to cut this down to 8. And grab your scoreboard. And that's where I use this stylus. And I'm going to start at 2. So score at 2. Oops. 2.5. 3. 3 3/8. 3 7/8. 4 3/8. 4 3/4. 5 1/4. 5 3/4. 6 1/8. 6 5/8. 7 1/8. 7 1/2. 8. 8 1/2. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of hinges. All right, fabulous. Now that we have that, this is how good, you can see it. Sometimes when you use black, you can't see this. All right, so the top of it has the valleys. The bottom has the mountains. What is this? It flies all over the place. So I'm going to take my score tape. I'm going to take the 1/4 inch, and so there's 5 sets of hinges. Those are the 1/2 inch ones. Where the 1/2 inch ones meet, you're going to put a piece of 1/4 inch score tape on both sides. So let me show you. We'll take the 1/4 inch score tape and go right up to that line and do another one to match it. And we're going to do that all the way across. And if it's over, that's okay. I'll take a straight edge and cut it. Although this part doesn't have to be edge to edge. So where the 1/2 inch meets, you're going to put 1/4 inch score tape, and this is what I'm calling the top of the paper. We scored this on this side, so it's the side you scored on. So can you guess how many hinges we'll have? How many pages in this book? If you said 5, you were right. And how much is room in between it? 3/8 of an inch. Whoops, that did not go straight. I should go lightly first, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. And I'm going to grab my X-Acto. I'm just gently going over it enough just to get the sticky part off. Okay, now I'm turning it upside down, and I'm going to add 3/8 of an inch score tape on each of the 3/8 of an inch sections. So there's going to be 4 of them. That's between the 2 1/2 inches. So there's 1/2, 1/2, and then the 3/8, and that's where the 3/8 is going to go. And this is what's going to attach it to the book. And this one I don't mind if I go over. I really prefer to go over because I'd like the tape to go edge to edge. I didn't there, but that's okay. Okay, now we have the two hinges, and I'm going to take a piece of the 3/8 score tape and put it up next to the gusset, the 3/8 of an inch gusset. And now here, there's no gusset, but I'm still going to put one down here. The pieces we're putting down now are because we're going to fold those gussets together, and that's going to keep them together. All right, now I want the rest of this to really adhere well. I'm looking to see if I have any thick. So we'll just take some of the 3/8 and do a couple of rows of that on both sides. Okay, I'm going to grab my X-Acto, trim off the sticky part. And then I'm going to spend a little time in burnish. So remember, this is really important that you get a good burnish down. You don't want any air gaps. In between the adhesive and the hinge. All right, so now where these are meeting, we're going to fold those. So we'll fold it here and burnish. Fold it here and burnish. Burnish. Whoops, there. And burnish. All right, so that's where the mountains are going to go. Now, I'm going to pull this up, and we have that mountain. I'm going to hold them together and just pull this paper back and forth a couple of times just so it bends. So there's where the 1/2 inch is. I'm just going to fold it on the 1/2 inch together. I haven't peeled up any of the backing yet, but I will. And I'm not burnishing it, I'm just getting it used to it. All right, so now it's sort of relaxed, but it's got mountains. I'm going to turn it this way so you see. It's got a mountain here, a mountain there, and then these are the gussets. Now what we're going to do is in each mountain there's a piece of Scor-tape. So we're going to take the Scor-tape off. So it's going to be every other piece of Scor-tape. You're going to leave the ones that are on the gusset on the 3/8 of an inch piece. Okay, does yours look like that? So each of the mountains will have a piece of Scor-tape that doesn't have the backing on it. I'm going to gently put it down. Don't push it down because I don't want the Scor-tape to touch the surface. And now you're going to pull these mountains together and get the Scor-tape to attach to the hinge next to it. Here's a mountain. Pull it together and rub it together. Like this one I didn't. There we go. Rub it together. We'll bend it this way. Bend it this way. Make sure those two pieces have kissed and are stuck together. And then let's go ahead and grab our bone folder and burnish it. First one way, and then fold these over and burnish it again. Fold it one way, and then the other. And now they'll go either way. You've trained them to go either way. And we'll train them again once we put it in the book. All right, now I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to take and trim off a little bit of, I'm going to try to focus in on here, a little bit of the corner. So we just go up to where the end of the Scor-tape is. Of course, the Scor-tape didn't go all the way to the end, but that's okay. You can still imagine where it is. Just at an angle. And then turn it over and do the other side as well. Okay, so now you've gotten and made it's just got a slant on each one of them. I have to check autofocus. All right, now that that's done, now what we have to do is adhere this to our book. So dry fit it first. I'm going to take these off. They don't bother me, but I don't want anything to get in the way. So look at, put it down and try to figure out how you're going to center it. You want to make sure your, if there's 3/8 of an inch from the spine to the back of the book, then there should be 3/8 of an inch there. There should be 1/4 of an inch from top to bottom. Now I'm probably going to go down a little bit and have more of a gap on the top than I do on the bottom. But that's just because sometimes I put things that stick up a little and so they don't stick over the book. Then I want to make sure that there's enough room for it. All right, so I'm taking a look at it and making sure I know where I want it to go. And then we're going to take off, I'm just going to take off the 4 pieces that are going to be on the hinge. Going to hold it. I call these the wings. You can call it whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to hold it. And I'm going to eyeball it again because I remember how I wanted it, how much room there was in between all of it. And then once you know you're going to do it, just drop it down, and I take my finger and I gently start at the center one. Well, there's 2 in the center. do those two, then I do the next one out. Then I do the next one out on the other side. And then now I'll go ahead and take off the backing. The 3 pieces I had on either side of the hinge system. Grab some art glitter glue. Oops, get back here. And add glue here. And now I'm going to fold this hinge, make sure this hinge is this way, and then push down. Grab my bone folder and push where the book cover and the hinge, not the hinge, yeah, the spine go together, and then go ahead and burnish. You have to work that seam, make sure it'll open real well. I'm going to turn it over, take off the backing, here, add a little bit of art glitter glue. Pull the hinge going towards the center of the book, push this down, burnish here at the seam of the spine and the page. It's actually the first page, it's turned upside down. And there we go. And there is your cover with your hinge system. And play with it a little bit, make sure that it'll bend both ways. All right, and there we go. Now on to making the pages. Okay, I'm going to show you what the base page is, and then I'm going to show you how to make it. So it will open this way and open this way, and then there's a pocket. I like having larger spreads because you can put pictures that don't necessarily go together, but you also could put pictures that go together. For instance, if you're doing a baby, you could put the baby trying to stand up, getting to their knees and standing up, something like that. But this also has a pocket, which you could leave out if you wanted to, but it gives you room to put extra ephemera or whatever. And I also have 1/8 of an inch gap here, just so you can get a little bulky if you wanted to. And I thought when I put in the designer paper, this is going to close like that, and I probably will put a magnet here, but I may have a piece of seam binding just so you know that that opens. Because sometimes when you give a mini album, or if you're making it, people don't understand how it works. So if you have a little tab, then people know to pull that, and then it'll open. Now it's going to have a pocket, and then on the back side of each page is going to be a little different. But what we're first going to do is assemble the base pages and then put them in the book, and then we will add the additional elements to go with it. So you will need, and I've cut out 4 because I've already made 1 page, and I will just show you how to make 1 and then do the rest of them off screen. So for 1 page you will need 5.5 by 9, 6 by 8, 8 by 10 3/4, and 4 by 6 3/8. It'll be listed in the description box below, but those are what you need. And then I want to show you how you're going to score them. So this 5.5 by 9 is actually going to be the back page, and you're going to score it on each side, so it's going to help create that pocket. So with the long side at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch. And then you'll score at 8.5. All right, the next one is the 6 by 8 page. And you're just going to score that at 1/2 inch. The 8 and 10 3/4 inch, you're going to score at 5.5 and at 5 5/8. So just the next eighth after that. Again, that's to allow for some expansion if you need to. That 4 by 6 3/8, this is going to be the pocket, and it's for a 5.5 inch page. So you would normally do 4 by 6.5, but I wanted it just 1/8 of an inch smaller so the page will close. So on this one, I want you to score 1/2 inch on the short side, rotate it, and score 1/2 inch on the other short side, and then put the, I have two. Put the short side up at the top and score on one of the long sides, and that will make your pocket. So go ahead and do that with 5 pieces of each, and then we'll put them together. And I'm going to show you right now how to put it together. All right, so the 5.5 by 9 inch piece, I'm going to use 1/4 inch score tape and glue at the same time. So I'm going to put 1/4 inch score tape down at the bottom and at the top. Grab my bone folder, burnish. I'm going to burnish better once I fold it. I turned it upside down. I'm going to fold the top tab up, burnish real well, and the bottom tab down, burnish real well, and grab your scissors. And on all 4 of these corners, just trim a little bit of the corner off. Best way to do it is to start right at the score line and go up. It gives your scissors a place to rest. All right, put that one aside. There is the 6 by 8 inch piece, and we scored at 1/2 inch. We're going to put score tape down that long 1/2 inch side. Turn it upside down, fold the 1/2 inch towards me, and burnish real well. And let's go ahead and trim those corners too. When I trim the corners, oops, hold on. It does a couple of things. It sort of hides it. And if you have a corner with a pocket, it helps the paper go in the pocket if you haven't covered it. All right, on this 8 by 10 3/4 inch piece, first of all, I wrote right where that is. I'm going to erase that just so it gets covered. And just score this. There's 2 score lines, so I want you to score it on both of those score lines and burnish. Sometimes it's hard to do when they're so close to each other. You just have to work it. There we go. Put that aside, and now this one, the 4 6 3/8 inch piece. I'm going to put Scor-tape down bottom. So put Scor-tape on all 3 of those scored sides. Trim the tops. And I'm going to trim the bottom a little. So instead of doing a right angle, I'm going to go in and do it a little more than a right angle. I'll show you why. This one I'll do at a right angle. And then let's fold and burnish, and I'll show you that experiment in just a second. Okay, so this I trimmed a little more than a right angle, and these corners don't fold onto each other. These, if you trim at a right angle, one piece will end up on top of the other one, and that's okay. It's not the end of the world if you do it that way, but it adds bulk. And when you're, I gotta trim it down, when you're adding so many things to a mini album, you want to try to reduce bulk anywhere you can. So that's why I trim it at more than a right angle. Again, in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to make that big of a deal. But if you just get in the habit of doing it, it'll help you in the long run. All right, now we're going to grab the 5.5 by 9 inch piece. And that's got the Scor-tape on the 2 short sides. So go ahead and peel off the backing. And I'm going to grab some art glitter glue. Now you could use just art glitter glue. You could use just maybe 3/8 of an inch Scor-tape. I do both. Now we're going to take that long page, the page that has the 2 score lines on it, and there's a short side and a long side. The longer side we're going to put down on here to make the pocket page. Start at the left side, and I'm starting at the bottom, and I'm matching up the corner, and then making sure it's centered, and I'll push down the bottom, and then I will make sure it is centered on the top and push that down as well. Grab my bone folder and burnish, and there's a pocket page. And you could just start with that. You don't need to go on, but we're going to. All right, we're going to take the 6 by 8 inch piece, remove the Scor-tape backing, and I added some glitter glue. I'm going to open this up, and this is going to go on the side with the opening on the left hand side. I mean, there's an opening on both sides really, but we'll open the flap to the right and put this on the left side, matching it up top and bottom. I mean, side and bottom. And there we go. So it should just go up to that first score line. So there is that. Now let's open this up, and the pocket, take off the backing. And I'm adding my glue. Okay, and then this one, you're going to be careful to make sure you center it. You don't want it to impinge the folding, so you try to center it. It's just a smidgen smaller than this whole page. So I'm going to put the bottom on first. It's like a 32nd of an inch smaller on each side. So I have the bottom on first, Make sure it's even, and I'll put the sides down. And there you go. There's your pocket, and you still can fold this that way, and this page will fold like that. All right, so go ahead and do the other 4 pages, and then we'll add them to our book. All right, and that was part 1 of our tutorial. Click the link in the description box and it will take you to part 2. And also don't forget, you can go back and look at the walkthrough at any time. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.